Let me give it a second. It looks like I am live. Let's see. Let me make sure. Listen, and just as luck would always have it, it was just raining here. There we go. I'm live and I can hear myself. But just as luck will have it, it was literally just raining here in my area. Okay, listen. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to week 6, lesson 6 of life lessons with a specialization in self actualization and resiliency. I am your instructor, Yashika Foster. And this week, we're talking about something that needs to be addressed, honey. When I talk about needs to be addressed, the topic this week is unlearning for the win. We rewiring your mindset, rewiring your mindset. And so, if anybody comes into the room, let me know. If you are coming into the room, say hello. And so, before we get into this week's agenda, let's go ahead and go over week's 5 agenda, or when we talked about resiliency as a lifestyle. Some of the areas that we focused on last week was asking for help instead of pretending you're fine, right? And I know I'm one of the people, listen, I can literally write a book on trying to be a superhero. When I tell you I can write a book on trying to be a superhero, I can write a book on trying to be a superhero. And it wasn't so much that that was the goal. It's just that in my mind, I didn't want to put my burdens or my stress onto someone else, right? Or it could have been also, right? And or it could have been simply, hey, I want to control the outcome. Therefore, I have to control the input, right? Because we do have this issue sometimes. But what I realized is that that wasn't conducive for my lifestyle. That wasn't conducive going forward. And I could not maintain something like that. So when we talk about resiliency and things like that, we need to be able to ask for help, right? We need to be able to ask for help when we need it. We don't There's no award for being the toughest person when it comes to this, or being the best mom or the best dad or the best whatever. There's no award for it. There's no award for it. Even if you come up with some little show that they might have, or some little thing that they might have, like participation award with parents, whatever, it's still just in your little area. There's no such thing. In other words, ask for help. All right, when we talk about resiliency, because that's what resiliency also look like, being able to ask for help when you need it. Okay, and then getting back up after rejections, failure, or disappointment. Listen, I have this old saying that it only rains for 40 days and 40 nights in the Bible. I tell people that all the time. And I have been through some things. Like, I've been divorced twice. Okay. I've miscarried once, a set of twins. And so for me, um, and I've had some things where, you have to literally just keep going. And I remember, even with my divorces, okay, even with my divorces, my thought process was it only rained for 40 days and 40 nights, right? He destroyed the whole earth and then rebuild it. There's no reason in the world, me, it's just myself, right, that I cannot pick myself back up in that time, right? I'm not saying you're still not going to have your moments. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is that resiliency means that you understand that the show must go on, okay? But when you got to take a knee, take a knee. When you got to drink water, like we used to say in the Army, drink water, right? Because that's what resiliency looks like also. Taking care of yourself. Understand that for you to be okay, right, you have to put things into place and react and show your emotions. Like, that's all that. Listen, I'm a whole Pisces. I cry. Okay, I'll cry in one moment, and then the next moment I'll be like, okay, well, let's just go for drinks now. Like nothing happened. Why? Because I had to get it out. I had to get it out. Okay, I had to get it out, because if not, it'll burst. All right. And then, of course, choosing softness without losing your power. And I think that this is something that men and women struggle with, especially in certain cultures. That if we feel like we ask for help, or we're vulnerable, it makes us look soft, or it makes us look like something. And we got to get away from that, because we're literally hurting ourselves trying to live up to other people's expectations about what certain things look like. Okay, resiliency is also being able to use the things that you've been through in order to look at them and say, okay, what can I do differently now that I'm moving forward again? Because whatever that obstacle was, you need to be able to take the lessons that's in there, because there's no failures in life. All that you experience are lessons, ways in which not to do something as opposed to ways in which to do something. That's all it is. There's no failures. So you have to keep pushing forward. So resiliency says, listen, if I need to say, hey, I need this regardless of gender, you need to be able to say that. All right. So if anybody have any comments or anything like that pertaining to last week, resiliency as a lifestyle, go ahead and put it in the chat. And so when we went to the homework, right? When we went to the homework, some of the things that I wanted you guys to address is the thing when it says, write about a time you overcame something you thought would break you, and what did you learn? And like I said, if you caught last week's live, I even talked a little bit about my divorces, right? You know, it was a lot that was okay. Talking about my divorce is a whole nother live, okay, considering there's two different divorces. However, which each process that I had to go through, there was a lesson that was learned, right? And I had to overcome things because now there was things that I had to do that I was doing as a single woman as opposed to a married woman. And were there times when I thought that I wasn't going to be able to do it? You doggone right. Okay. Because I had threw out the flag a couple of times. All right. I had threw out the flag a couple of times. All right. But I had to keep going. And did what I learned from it when it came to certain things in life, I knew that I always had to pour into myself. Because what I recognized, even in those marriages, there were certain things that I did get from them, but there were certain things that I did not get from those marriages. So because of that, I needed to make sure that I always poured into myself certain things so that I would never come up short, right? And so when you talk about what did you learn, those are things that I learned, and those are real stories. So when you talk about the things you've been through and you didn't know you were going to be able to overcome it, dig deep. Right, dig deep. And if you want to share it, you can share it. If you want to email it to me, by all means, email it to me, because I know some things are private and personal for people. Okay. And I just really hope that with each week that you guys are really, really getting something from this, because trust me, when I tell you that this is something that is needed, right? Self-actualization and resiliency. It is a big thing. And if you don't know, I am certified in resiliency training. I'm certified in a lot of things, but that's specifically one of them. Okay. Now, week 6, unlearning for the win, rewiring your mindset. Listen, I'm going to read some things from this sheet because I want to make sure that when I was capturing my notes and taking my notes, that I really, really put thought into it. And I wanted to make sure that I highlighted some things. I wanted to make sure that I didn't overlook things that was important. But the objective for this week is identify and replace limiting beliefs. You are not responsible for the beliefs you inherited, but you are responsible for what you continue to live by. Okay. And I don't know if it was on this platform or on another platform, because I'm also doing a getting to self-actualization series, and that's taking place here. I drop it. If this is something you're interested in, if you want to learn more about self-actualization, right? Because this course right here emphasizes on it, but it doesn't really go deep into it. But getting to self-actualization, the series gets more deep into how you can get to self-actualization. And so over there, I don't know if it was there that I was talking about it, or here where I was talking about when what is it, when we're responsible for what we continue to live by, like when it comes to certain things that we believed, right? I remember as a kid, one of the things that my grandmother would always say was shaving up under a woman's arms made her take her strength away, right? When she would shave or cut any of her hair off of her, it would take her strength away. Now, I know that's from the Bible verse. I know that's from the Bible and all that. And then the elders, especially the elders from Louisiana and places like that, which is where my folks are from, you know, they took it and made it their own. Okay. But somehow they said that a woman becomes weaker when she cuts her hair. And so my mother also believed that. And my mother was born in the 50s. Okay. Now, here I am, a Gen Xer. I come along, I'm in school in the 80s and the 90s. Mom, I can't be walking around with all this hair up under my arms. Okay. I cannot be. Listen, Mom, I know it might make me weak. Okay. But we got to shave this. Okay. Mama saying, well, Yashika is going to do this. Listen, I know that's what your mother taught you. And I understand. But what I will do to make sure that I don't become weaker when it comes to my physical ability, I will continue to lift weights. I will continue to sharpen but I'm going to shave this hair off and up under my arms. Okay. So when we think about things like that, what are some things that you hold on to that you think that you supposed to because of what you were told? That's just like being, not to get into political views, but my political party. Only thing my grandfather told me was vote this way because of this reason. And that was it. That was the only lesson I got on anything about politics. So when I joined the army and they said, what's your, I was like, well, my grandfather told me this. And so I didn't really understand. And so, yes, I had to go through that period where I had to say, okay, why am I going with this party as opposed to this party and that party? Right. Because again, this was something that I was just told to do without even an explanation. Hell, I don't even think they really knew why. Okay. So when we talk about the things that we feel like we are continuing to live with, are these the things that you feel that they're valid in your life, or are you carrying things that you were told? So this week, as we really dig deeper into the mental program, many of us are carrying belief systems passed down from family, religions, institution, or past traumas. And that's really a big thing. Like, we have to make sure that as we go through life and we get through these recycling and these reframing our minds, right? Are there things that we do because of what we were taught? I'm gonna give you guys an example. There are certain generations that don't believe in like children playing too far from home, right? Whereas that I grew up where, listen, we hit the block. We hit the block, we hit the block. Now, were there things like, I'm from Detroit, were there things that went on? Absolutely. Okay. I know I was flashed a few times. I mean, I seen people that was unalive in the neighborhood, just chilling on the side of the fence, just chilling. They was unalive, right? I seen a lot of things, but also what I knew is that my mother could not be with me everywhere that I went. She was a single parent. She gave birth to me at 16. So as she was growing up, I'm growing up. She got to work. She got to find a job. It's myself and my brother. She got 2 kids. She's now a single parent because my father, although they were married, didn't stick around. So that was that. So what I'm saying is that I had to learn to survive in the environment without her, right? Because eventually I would be going with life without her. And so even in today's world, there are people that will still protect their, keep their kids like around because of all these things. And so one of the questions that I asked them is that, when are you supposed to let your child go away? Like, in other words, when do you cut the cord? Right? When do you start to allowing them to feel safe or to hope? Because the world is a big scary place for everybody. Okay. And when we talk about the world being a big scary place for everybody, are you holding on to things from before and now is impacting now? And so we tend to raise our kids out of fear, right? Because of our own traumas. And that's something that we really, really have to be cognizant about. And I know my mother will tell me anytime that that's how she raised my brother and I. Now, was it conducive? I don't know. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. All right. But here I am. But here I am. Was it? I mean, I'm all right, but I do know that her thing was, don't do this because this can happen. My mother believed in, here's the picture, stay in the lines when you color. And if you come outside those coloring lines, you're going to get back in those lines one way or the other, either by force or by force. You're going to get back in those lines, right? So that's how she raised us. But what I do know is, when it comes to raising this next generation of kids, what I recognize is that a lot of kids are afraid to even go too far from home, because a lot of the times they weren't cut off too, they weren't cut early enough. Let me get my tongues twisted together. They were not cut early enough, right? A lot of parents kept their kids in the yard. They weren't allowed to spend a night over people's houses. They weren't allowed to do these things and do these things and do these things. So when a lot of the younger generation up under myself, like the Alpha generation or Generation Z's, when a lot of them got up to some age, a lot of them don't really understand how to navigate this big old scary world. And that's why this particular class, life lessons with an emphasis in self-actualization and resiliency, is important, because we want to make sure that we're not passing these things on to our kids and then leave them in a place where they don't even have any tools or any resources or anything to even figure it out. All they know is that, don't do that because I said so. They don't even know why they can't go out the yard. They don't even know why they can't go out the yard, right? Because we don't go into deep and tell them, well, you can't go out the yard because of something that happened to me, because they need to understand that. They need to understand that that's your trauma. And so if they do go out the yard, right, because eventually they need to go out the yard, what are the rules? And this is what I try to instill in my kids. Like, even when it came to, don't, say no to, the drugs, right? I never told my kids, listen, I said, listen, don't do, don't do drugs. But let me tell you why you should not do drugs. Okay. And then on top of that, I would tell them, listen, and if you do decide you want to smoke something, if you didn't roll it, you don't smoke it. And here's why. I can show you proof of what I know didn't happen. Why? Because I'm from the hood. I know people that been given something that was laced with something and now their minds aren't right. I know people that was given something and now they're unalive. Right. I know people that was given something and so now they're addicted to something else. Like I know these things. Right. So if you're going to do these things, you need to understand why you shouldn't do it and why you shouldn't do them. Right. It's not just because I tell you so, but these are the reasons why. Okay. Because I don't want my trauma to be my kids' trauma. Okay. But I know it's sometimes hard to make sure we don't blur that line. But I think that having a conversation, you don't have to tell your kids everything, but I don't think that, letting them go at 15 finally out the yard is the time, right? Because at that point, it's like, okay, they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing outside the yard. If you let them go out the yard at 15, like we supposed to been did that. Let's back it up a little bit, right? Common limiting beliefs. I'm too much. I have to earn rest, love, success. It's not safe to be vulnerable. And if I don't do it, no one will. These are things that we tell ourselves, right? These are some of the things that we need to unlearn, right? And I know for a fact that when it comes to I have to earn rest, love, and success, that is something that a lot of times is cultural. Okay. And it's not just with black and brown people. I know other cultures that are like that as well. If you're not grinding, if you're not a straight A student, if you're not aiming to be a lawyer or a doctor or something like that, some cultures look at it like, well, you're not being successful in this world. Okay. And so we have this thing about, okay, if I don't do this, then I don't deserve this. If I don't do this, and I don't deserve this, right? Especially, and another thing is the validation within certain within certain cultures, because again, it's reshaping our mindset. Someone told me one time that if a man, if a certain person is not married, then they're and they get to a certain age, that it's like they're looked at as a certain way. And I was like, oh my goodness, like who gave that rule? Like who gave that rule? Like statistically speaking, right, there are more women than there is men. Statistically speaking, there's nothing we can do about that. All right. Y'all got to blame it on the way it was in the beginning, because remember, a lot of men went to war and the women stayed home and this, and that, and the third. And a lot of them got whatever. Okay. So statistically speaking, there have always been more women than men. There are going to be some women that's not going to be married. There's going to be some women that's not going to be booed up. Right. Even in today's society. Right. And then there's people like myself. I've been married twice. Right. But then there's some people that'll never be married. So what I'm saying is, when did it become where if you're not this, you're not validating? And again, this is something that we have to get away from. You find happiness in yourself, right? You find completeness and wholeness in yourself. This is part of this whole rewiring our mindset, right? Listen, the goal is this, but there's other ways in this world. Everybody's not meant to do this. Everybody's not meant to do that. Just like they say, everyone's not meant to be leaders, just like everybody's not meant to just be followers. Some people, in order to be a leader, you have to be a follower. But then there are some people that are only followers. They don't know how to be a leader, right? Some people's not meant to be certain things. So when we talk about that in our lives, right? What do we need to reset our mind about? What do we need to rewire our minds with, right? Rewiring steps. Identify the belief. Okay, this is some ways in which you can just rewrite your mindset or rewire your mindset. Identify the belief. What belief do you hold on to that you know is not yours? And not only that, but it's limiting you from doing certain things. It's limiting you from exploring certain things. Now, I'm not saying that, go against any type of religion, any type of morally, any of that, because again, this is your life. This is your life, not anybody else's. This is your life. But what is it? Identify the belief that you're holding on to that you feel is not allowing you to be your best self, because you still think about what people are going to say, because you still fear being judged. You still feel that you're supposed to be able to fit this inside of this, right? Because again, these limiting beliefs, right? These limiting beliefs that if we're not whole of this, so we don't have this, then we're not complete. Okay, so what is something that you're holding on to? Identify that belief. Challenge the origin. In other words, who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that? Okay, especially someone telling you that. And listen, especially someone telling you that and they've never been there, right? And they say things. Now, I'm not saying that I know I'm gonna have to probably do another live to this, but what I'm telling you, because I have to really watch my words. Okay. But what I'm saying is, who told you that? The person that tells you certain information, when it comes to where it come from, look at that person's credentials. Example, it's like me going to someone and asking them how to invest money, and they don't have any money saved. Like they literally don't even have $200 in the bank. Or better yet, them voluntarily telling me, well, Yashika, I would not put my money over here in this investment if I was you. And you'd be like, really? Well, why? Well, because I don't think that's going to be a good one. I'd be like, well, did you put your money over there? Well, no, I don't have no money. Well, how can you tell me where to put my money in if you ain't tried it? That's what I'm trying to talk about. That's what I'm talking about. Be careful who tells you certain things. The things that you go on, the things that you believe, who told it to you. And then on top of that, are they antiquated beliefs? Are they something that went out, with the silent generation, okay, and or the baby boomers, right? Or better yet, my generation, okay, my generation, all right. Reframing with a new empowering truth. In other words, how can you replace what they told you with your own understanding? Okay. For me, when I talked about the shaving thing, I don't believe that, right? And so I never had to replace it with anything, but I also keep it in the back of my mind because why? It's just something that they told me. But I understand why they said, because again, what they're saying is just that that's their way of saying a woman should always be this and be that, and they didn't have the right word. So I understood it 100%. You know what I mean? But when it came to this part, no, mama, we about to shave this, okay? We about to shave this. So reinforce through, and then the final stage is reinforce through repetition and aligned actions. In other words, how do you, in order to form a habit, you have to constantly do something. Just like in order to break a habit, you have to do it for, like, not do it for like what, 90 days or something like that. I can't remember. It's like in the 12 steps or whatever. So when it comes to reinforcing through repetition and aligned actions, how do you keep on doing things? Like, just like if you want to say, okay, I don't believe that in order for me to be this way, I should have this. Like, even when we talk about like religion and other things, right? Some people believe that they can't go together. Some people believe that they're two different entities. Some people believe that they should never be one and the same, right? And I'm a person that believes in my intuition full fledged. Like, I really believe in my intuition, right? Somebody else will tell me that if it's not of this, then it's not right. Well, I don't know how they believe, but I know for me, I believe in what I believe, right? And so I have to be okay with that. They have to unlearn it for themselves, but I have to be okay with my life because I know that my intuition guides me, right? And I don't know where it comes from all the time, but I do know that intuition guides me. But some people will look at that because of their limited beliefs as saying, hey, this is not of this world. Depends on who you're talking about, right? Y'all know a Creole woman. All right, so reflections, check in. What beliefs is stuck, right? That's something you have to ask yourself. What voice are you still obeying out of fear, not choice? And some of those voices are good. Let me tell y'all a story real quick. My oldest son, 30. Okay, now he was my child. Another story. He's in the army now. Blessed Jesus. Okay, but anyway, he was doing something he didn't have no business doing one day. And just so happened around that same time after he walked away, whatever situation, he never told me what it was. I text him and I just asked him what was he doing because I felt like, I don't know. I just text him like, hey, what are you doing? Right. So he texted me back. He said, wow, I can't believe you. He said a minute ago, he said, I was about to do whatever he was about to do. He said, and I heard your voice tell me, now, you ain't supposed to be doing that. That's what he told me. And then right after that, I text him. I said, see, boy, I'm telling you, I'm everywhere, even when I'm not there. So in other words, all voices aren't bad voices, right? But those ones who are not aligned with your beliefs, your life lessons, where you trying to get in this world for your self-actualization, if it's holding you back, right? Because sometimes people won't even do certain things because they believe, well, if I do this, then this won't. Listen, you have to live your life for yourself. I am 52 years of age, and I will tell you that's the one thing that I wish I had understood when I was about 10 years old. I think I started getting it when I was about maybe 18 to 20. But prior to that, I was trying to fit myself in somebody else's understanding of what I should be as a woman, as a girl, as a black girl, as a pretty girl, whatever. They wanted me to be a certain way, and I know I couldn't be that way, right? So that's the only thing that I would tell anybody. Do what you need to do for your life. Because for you to get through Maslow's needs of hierarchy, to live your best life, to be self-actualized, you have to make sure that everything else in life is taken care of. And the way you do that is unlearning things that doesn't serve you. The way you do that is letting go of things that no longer serves you, no longer aligns with where you're going in life. Let it go, because it doesn't serve you any purpose. I'm here to tell you. I'm here to tell you, we waste so much time on things that doesn't serve us and don't align with our greater good. This week's homework: unlearning for the win, rewriting. Name 3 beliefs you were raised with that you now question. Reframe each one of them. So if you look on your worksheet, or excuse me, your workbook on page 16, it's a bracket. Tell me the then. What did you believe then versus what do you believe now? Right? I remember it was a time where women used to not leave out the house unless they had slips up on their dresses. Y'all remember the slips that women used to wear? It's hot as hell. We're not wearing no slips no more, right? But then there are some people, there's some women that still believe that in order to wear a dress, they have to wear a slip, right? And I'm not saying it has to be as minute as that. I'm talking about dig deeper than that. What are some things for me? One of the things that I know that I still believe to this day, and it's just me, that I was not going to have my kids without having a husband. Now, did it matter because I ended up divorcing both of them? No, it didn't matter. But I knew that I didn't want to be without a husband for my kids, because that was something that I had seen too much of. And so for me, that was something that my grandparents instilled in me that I still believe to this day for me. And so even with my daughter, listen, I understand how life works, but right, I understand what's going on in this world, but what's meant for you is meant for you. We still have to do things a certain way. Okay. So now go ahead and look at that on page 16, the then and now. Write down something that you think that you believe that you're still holding on to, and it no longer serves you. It no longer aligns to where you are today. All right. And if you do not, again, if you do not want to put it down below, you can email me, or when it's time for you, if you have questions about something, you can email me. And the answers to any of those things, if you want to share, just go ahead and put them below or email me that as well. And so again, this is a week 6 of life lessons with a specialization in self-actualization and resiliency. And we are unlearning for the win. And listen, we almost done. We have 2 more weeks to go before this is done. And some of y'all still owe me homework. Okay. Some of y'all still owe me homework, but we're not gonna get into that right now though. But anyway, go ahead and watch the videos. If you have not been able to keep up to where we are right now, just go ahead, look up under the HTU playlist over on YouTube, and you will find all the videos there. If you have any questions, again, let me know. I am your instructor, Coach Yashika, and I will catch you guys next week. Bye.